Good morning. My name is David Salter, and I'm an estate planning attorney in Hillsville, Minnesota. My law firm is Salter Law LLC. And at my law firm, we have a simple mission. We want to prepare you for the journey of your life ahead by providing personalized, comprehensive estate planning guidance to ensure that you have a smooth passage of your assets down to your loved ones. My three practice areas are estate planning, estate administration, and I've started providing clients with pre-planning for potential long-term care costs. We want to protect you wherever you are in life journey, whether you're just starting out, starting a new job, heading towards retirement, if you have health issues, and then also when someone passes away, help you administer the estate after a loved one is gone. As part of this mission, we want to guide you past obstacles that you've will find in your life's journey. So we are partnering with our local experts who can help further guide you through those life transition points. So today I'm pleased to introduce our hosts, Dan and Nancy Loeffler, and they're founders of Being with Grief, and they're located here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Their passion is changing the conversation around grief and helping clients find meaning, purpose, and joy again so they can fully participate in their lives. This is the third installment of our three-part webinar series, and today Dan and Nancy are going to discuss how to meet grief. So, Dan and Nancy.
Thank you, David, for having us, for the opportunity to share our passion with all of our listeners. As David said, I'm Nancy Loeffler, and together with Dan, we founded Being with Grief in response to the death of our daughter, Leah, 23 years ago now. I'm also the author of The Alchemy of Grief, Your Journey to Wholeness, and together we host a weekly radio show on Frogtown Radio called Monday Morning Conversations with Nancy and Dan, and you can listen to that on Monday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time.
And I'm Dan Loeffler. I am a grief recovery specialist, and we know that the importance of having difficult conversations is an important piece of the path and journey toward healing after the loss of someone or something in your life.
Yeah.
What we'd like to talk to you about today is what to say and not to say to someone who is grieving. It's an important topic that I think gets overlooked, and sometimes you get caught in that moment where you just don't quite know what to say, and something comes out.
And we're also going to touch on boundaries that you can create for yourself if you are a griever, and how and when to know when it's time to get help.
Right.
One of the questions we're often asked, actually most often asked, is what do I say to someone who is grieving? And that's a great question. And when we're having this conversation, we always like to include things that are not helpful as well, because I'm sure we've all been on the receiving end and the giving end of something that's not helpful.
Right. And like I said, those difficult conversations and situations that we find ourselves in, especially when we want to show our support to someone who's had a significant loss. And it doesn't have to just be the death of somebody. It could be any major life-changing event that changes what you thought your life was going to
changes the course of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we found is that having resources to have these difficult conversations help us to get underneath those layers of protection that keeps all of us on the surface of grief. And once we have those resources, the conversation may still be uncomfortable, yet we have the tools necessary to navigate them. And
you're not stuck up the creek without a paddle.
So how do you choose what to say and what not to say? And what are some of the things to keep in mind as you approach a grieving friend?
So one thing to keep in mind is that everyone is different. And what may be comfortable to one person may not be comfortable to someone else. You can use your intuition and your knowledge of the person who is grieving to decide the right message at the right time. And it depends on the circumstances and your relationship with that person.
Yeah. So saying be strong may be the wrong thing to say to someone who's feeling out of control and doesn't know how to be strong or doesn't want to be strong. They may need someone to be strong for them until they regain their sense of confidence and control.
While someone else may need to hear that they should stay strong to give them the motivation and the inspiration to move through their difficult time.
Yeah. Here's some more things that are helpful to say to someone who's grieving. I can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here to support you in whatever way that feels best. Nothing I can say is going to make this feel better.
That is probably the most important thing. And we can repeat that. I can't imagine what you're going through, but I'm here to support you in whatever way feels best for you. Nothing I can say is going to make this any better. And you can also say it's okay not to say anything, to be comfortable with your silence and to just be there and offer support.
Yeah, we're not always comfortable with silence. We think we have to fill those silences with words, and that's when the words sometimes become not helpful words. So it's okay to say nothing, and it's okay to let the griever know that they don't have to say anything if they don't want to say something.
And for me, one of the things that really hurt is the best way to describe it was that someone to say, well, it was God's will for that to happen. I don't believe that God wanted this to happen or willed it to happen. And hearing somebody say an inappropriate thing just might be the wrong thing.
Yeah. And it's okay to be angry or whatever you're feeling. Let them know that they can own their feelings, they can feel their feelings, and that you're a safe person to express those feelings to if they need to.
Right. Acknowledging their feelings is so important, no matter where they are. They may be angry, they may be
feeling regret.
One of the things that we talk about is feeling that sense of guilt that their person may have been suffering for a long time and now they're no longer with them. It might bring them into a sense of guilt and
or a sense of guilt like we felt when we couldn't keep Leah from having her accident.
Right.
So grief is complicated, and helping the griever realize that it's okay to feel those feelings it can be important to them.
And letting the person know that they're not alone in their feelings and that you are a safe person to say anything and everything to.
Yeah.
Remembering that they may feel relief, like I said, over somebody's illness and may somehow feel guilty about feeling that way.
Yeah.
It's okay, and accept them where they are.
And remember, too, that not everyone in the same family will feel the same range of sadness. Everybody in the family has a different relationship with the person who died. And so they have a different experience, they have a different relationship, and so they may feel grief in a different way. And that's something I didn't realize at first. I thought grief was grief and everybody got it the same way, and it's not true.
We each had to face and deal with the loss of our daughter. Me as a father, as dad, and Nancy as mom. And, those relationships really kind of set up that example because having a unique relationship means that you're going to grieve uniquely.
Right. So now we want to talk about some of the actions and sayings that you should avoid if you have a friend who is grieving, and sometimes this can be early grief. These are mostly for early grief because that's when someone doesn't know what to say and they'll say some of the things we're going to share with you.
Yeah, oftentimes you just don't know what to say, and we say things that make us feel better, that, as we said earlier, without recognizing how it may make the the person who's grieving feel.
Yeah. So it's important not to judge the person or their circumstances because we don't know what they've been through. We don't know what the relationship was like and what they may be feeling right now.
Right. Think before you speak, because your words are going to be a comfort to a person who is grieving, or are they really trying to comfort you because it's going to make you feel better? Be aware of what you say.
Yeah. Saying something like everything will be all right or everything happens for a reason. These statements are not comforting rather to someone who is in pain and who is missing their loved one. They just want their loved one back. They haven't yet figured out that what path they need to take in navigating this difficult journey. So we can't fix the hurt in the moment.
And as I said earlier, try to avoid it was God's will that this happened. That sets up a situation where they may be angry at God for what happened, and to minimize that and avoid raising those kinds of issues.
Yeah. And saying I'm praying for you when you aren't, just as a way to exit the conversation, is something else that the mourner is going to pick up on. You can pray for them without saying you're praying for them, and it doesn't diminish the power of the prayer.
Correct. Great.
Yeah.
Staying away from at least statements. Some of them are the most discomforting statements made to mourners. Start with those two words, at least. So say, at least you have other children, or at least you can still have children. At least you've had, or so many years of marriage together. At least they didn't suffer. At least
they're not suffering anymore.
Right. And those are just some of the unhelpful things. Here's a couple more. You just need to move on.
Yeah. Someone who is in early grief, that's not helpful.
Right.
It won't help to dwell on the past or the death.
You need to keep busy and just forget about it. How can you forget about it? It's someone who you've loved.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to go back to work? You can get your mind off that loss.
Yeah, and that's a way to diminish the loss or push it away without feeling the feelings, which is what a lot of us think is necessary to get through grief. But as we talk about often, we need to feel all those feelings. So saying things like, I could introduce you to someone nice. I don't want you to be alone. Again, hear yourself saying, I don't want you to be alone.
Right.
Someone whose partner has died is not thinking about that early on. Or aren't you able to have another baby? That's implying that another child could replace the child that died.
And you can't replace the loss.
Yeah.
How about you need to get over this. Quit throwing a pity party. After all, it's been 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is. And grief, you have to experience grief in your own time.
Right. And you never get over it. You learn how to live with it, and you learn the resources to feel those feelings so that you can get through it. You never get over the death of a loved one.
Right. And don't discount someone else's feelings.
Yeah.
That might shut down the communication that you're trying to establish. So stay away from statements like, you shouldn't feel that way.
Right. Right. Or I know how you feel. And while you may have had a similar experience, that's the quickest way to shut down somebody, because in that moment, you think that nobody knows how you feel. And it's true. We don't know exactly how someone feels.
And we shouldn't compare losses, because there's, I'm going to experience something totally different than the way someone else does. And you can't really say, because you feel your grief at 100%, no matter where you're at.
Right.
And they will feel that same way too.
Yeah. And these are some of the things you should think before you actually speak them. If you hear yourself wanting to say some of these next things, like everything happens for a reason,
People die every day. It's just a part of life.
it was their time.
It's all for the best.
It will get better, or it will be all right. And while some of these statements may have that kernel of truth, the griever needs to be the one to come to this realization in their own time, and to go through their own grief journey to be able to find that realization.
Yes. And when with the mourner, be there for them and listen to them and say only statements that let them know that you've heard them and that you understand where they're at and that you love and support them.
Yeah. So meet the griever where they are. Now we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries and how you can create boundaries as a griever between yourself and others who think that they know that they know best for you.
Yeah. It's okay to tell someone that you aren't ready to talk about your grief. And at the same time, it's okay to let someone know that you want to hear stories of their loved ones and that you want them to speak their name.
Yeah. Oftentimes people will avoid telling you stories or avoid saying their name because they think that they're going to make you feel bad.
And you're already feeling as bad as you can possibly feel. So I know that when I heard someone say Leah's name, it brought her back to me in a way that was reflected in the conversation. And it was
hearing
very important.
stories about her was comforting as well. And it helped us to know that other people were thinking of her and that she wasn't forgotten.
Allow others to do things for you that don't impede your sense of a safe boundary. Having someone bring you a meal or pick up groceries can take the task off of you and allow your friends to feel like they are being helpful.
Yeah. If someone asks you if they can help you go through their things, that may not be helpful and it may create an unsafe feeling. So be okay with saying, no, I appreciate your offer, but it doesn't feel right at this time. And I know that I didn't go through Leah's things for at least 3 years. And everybody said, aren't you going to do something with the room? And it just didn't feel, I wasn't ready until I was ready. And actually what we did is I had a friend who didn't know Leah help to come over to go through her things because she wasn't mourning. She wasn't grieving. I mean, she felt bad. She felt bad for me and she knew the graveness of the situation, but she wasn't grieving Leah herself. So it was easier for her to make an unemotional decision.
Right. And help us make
Right.
those decisions. Remember to thank them for their concern and ask them to check back with you in whatever time frame feels right for you, whether it's a week or 2 weeks. Letting them know that you appreciate their concern.
Yeah. And if you're unable to create a safe boundary, be aware of the feeling in your body to find out what you need in order to be safe. And your body will tell you what you need. It always does.
Right. And be okay with using the term boundaries to describe an area that you want to establish to make you feel more comfortable. It's okay.
Yeah. So how do we know when to get help? This is another question that we get asked quite frequently.
Right. And when the pain of staying where you are is costing you too much. So when your grief affects your family relationship and that unique grieving that we talked about, that each of us that can cause conflicts if it's not addressed and a boundary set.
Right.
With friends and other relationships that you may have that you may not feel comfortable in and have the inability to share details about someone's life, that may be an indication that, hey, I may need to find some third party that can help me work through some of these things.
Yeah.
Or in your work life, being in a previous chapter of my life, I was a safety manager for a person that saw grief in the workplace, with issues of safety, with foggy thinking or poor decision making, that may be an indication that hey,
Yeah.
I need to get some help here. Personal life too. One of the things that the grief recovery system talks about is the stress reducing behaviors that can be turned into addictions if they're not addressed. And knowing also that if your stress and your grief is causing an impact to your health, that you're always in a state of depression, or you have a lot of anxiety, or that you just want to be isolated and not deal with anybody. That could be an indication that you need to see and talk to someone.
Yeah. Another indication of needing help is when you want to move forward, or you've seen others who have experienced traumatic grief move forward, but you just don't know how.
Right. And remember, if boundaries are broken and you experience depression, anxiety, or other physical disorders, take, for example, when someone pushes you to change and you resist, creating a tension in your body, that may be an indication that something's coming up for you, and it would be better to have a difficult conversation earlier than it is to hold it inside and let that anxiety and tension spill out in inappropriate ways.
And remember that you don't have to go to the person that someone else is suggesting that you go to.
That's a good
There are many, many, many different ways to meet grief, many different people who can help you in many different ways. So seek out something that resonates and feels right for you.
So whether you're new to grief or if you've been carrying grief for a long time, you need to remember two things.
You need to be able to express yourself and share your grief experiences without being judged.
And to know that you've been heard and understood. Those are the two most important takeaways, I think, that we can share with you.
Yeah. You can help mourners by being present, by listening, by offering support, and by encouraging them. Simply being there for grievers can help them move toward healing.
Let the mourners feel that what they feel in the moment. More appropriate response might be to acknowledge somebody's feelings by saying, I can see how you might feel that way.
If you are a griever, it's okay to create boundaries to help yourself feel safe. And it's time to get help when the cost of staying where you are is too great.
Those are some of the things that we've learned on our path that we wanted to share. And if you'd like to hear more about us, you can check out our webpage at www.beingwithgrief.com.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity to share these things this morning. And we hope that you found some value in them.
I can tell you, I really enjoyed all three of these, and what I learned today, I've always felt I was pretty good at speaking to clients when someone loved had passed away, but I know I have said at least before. So
yeah, we all have.
That's going out the door. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks Dan and Nancy.
Thank you, David.
David.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.